Alright, let's talk about Lupa, the newest fusion support slash sub DPS added to the game. And in this video, we're going to talk about her kit, teams, and rotations so that way you know everything that you need to know before you row. So let's go ahead and start with her kit, and she has three main mechanics: her buffs, her Forte Bar, and her Liberation. So let's go ahead and talk about her buffs, and most of these are activated once she casts her Liberation. With the first one being Glory, and this gives her team Fusion Res Penetration, to where if you have one Resonator on the team who's Fusion, it's going to do a 3% shred, 2 Resonators is going to do a 6% shred, and 3 Resonators is going to do a 15% shred. The second buff is Pack Hunt, to where she's going to get a 10% fusion damage buff, but if you have 3 Resonators on the team that's Fusion, you're going to have a 20% fusion damage buff. On top of that, the team's going to also get a 6% attack buff, which is going to increase by 6% for every intro that's cast in the team. And once 3 intros are cast, she's going to do an enhanced attack, which is similar to Shorekeeper. This is visually shown to you by looking at the Wolf Eye display. On the initial cast, you will get a Wolf Eye giving you 6% attack. On the first intro, it's going to light up, giving you 12% attack. And on the second intro, the other side is going to light up, giving you 18% attack, which now allows you to switch to Lupa and cast her enhanced intro attack. And her last Liberation buff is an auto dodge, to where she's going to be able to auto dodge on incoming attacks up to 3 times after she casts her Liberation. But sometimes these can stop you from casting your Liberation, so be careful. And her last buff is her outro, to where she's going to be able to increase the incoming Resonator's fusion damage by 20% and their basic attack damage by 25%. And her next mechanic is her Forte Bar, and the main thing that we're trying to do here is quickly fill it up, so that way we can get a lot of Concerto to switch to her next Resonator. So let's discuss how we fill the bar, and that's generally by doing basic attacks and casting your skill, which is the slow way. The preferred way is to do basic attacks while you're in the burning match state, which is something else that's tied to your Resonance Liberation. But once the bar is filled, you're able to do 2 basic attacks in the air to gain 2 wolf heads. And once you cast your skill, you're going to consume these heads, allowing Lupa to do tick damage for her teammates while she's off field. Bringing us to her last but most important mechanic, her Resonance Liberation. Once activated, she's able to get the following buffs: Glory, Pack Hunt, the auto dodge, and an enhanced skill called Foe Breaker. So once you cast your Resonance Liberation and you cast your enhanced skill Foe Breaker, you're going to be able to enter the burning match state, which allows your basic attacks to have a 500% increase on Forte generation. This is going to be the main way how you're able to quickly activate all of your buffs and quickly switch to your incoming Resonator. So now let's talk about a rotation. You want to cast your Liberation, you want to do 5 basic attacks, you want to cast your enhanced skill, activate your Echo, and then you outro to your incoming Resonator. So now let's talk about our build. So you mainly want to get crit rate and crit damage, and you want to make sure that you have at least 120% energy recharge. And for your secondary stat, you get Resonance Liberation. Bringing us to our Echoes, and you mainly want to get the Flaming Claw print set, because like the Gust of Welkin, this is essentially a support set for fusion characters, to where it buffs the team's fusion damage, but for Lupa, it buffs her Liberation damage. For the Boss Echo, you want to use the Lioness of Glory, due to the fact that it gives fusion damage and Liberation damage. For the main stats, you either want to use crit rate or crit damage, depending on the weapon slash substats that you have. And for the 3-cost Echoes, you're generally going to want to use fusion damage, but you could consider attack and possibly ER if you're struggling to meet that 120% ER requirement. And for the 1-cost Echoes, you want to use attack. Next, we have her skills. And you want to focus on leveling up her Liberation, her intro, her Forte, her normal attack, and lastly, her skill. Bringing us to her weapons, where of course her signature weapon is her best weapon, due to the fact that it increases her attack, it increases her Resonance Liberation damage, and it also increases the team's fusion damage. Besides that, her best alternative would be Jin Shi's or Jion's weapon in that order, or the standard weapon. And for 4 stars, you could consider using the Battle Pass weapon or Waning Redshift. So now let's quickly talk about her sequences. And here you can see the damage increases for her team. So let's look at a few that stand out. S2 is a team-wide fusion buff, and it's a 13% damage buff for the team. This is most likely where you want to stop if you want to get some sequences on Lupa. S3 is kind of a trap, to where it does allow you to use 1 less fusion character, but generally most of the time it's just better just to use 3 fusion characters. And S6 greatly increases Lupa's personal damage, but it doesn't really do much for the teams, so it may not be worth depending on your situation. Bringing us to her teams, which are pretty restrictive since Lupa desperately wants to have 2 fusion characters on her team. But her ideal teammates are Brant and Chang-Li, due to the fact that Lupa buffs Brant, Brant buffs Chang-Li, and Chang-Li buffs Lupa, to the point to where this team generally outclasses all other options. And for the Echo sets, for Brant, you're going to want the Tidebreaker Courage, due to the fact that it increases his energy recharge and also increases the damage that he does. And the Boss Echo being the Dragon of Dirge, which increases his fusion damage and basic attack damage. And for Chang-Li, you're going to want to use the Modern Rift set, which greatly increases her fusion damage, with the Boss Echo being the Nightmare Infernal Rider, increasing her fusion damage and skill damage as well. But if you're missing one of her ideal teammates, you can consider using Encore as a replacement. And for her Echo set, you would be using the Modern Rift set, just like Change Li. But for the boss Echo, you could consider using the Nightmare Infernal Rider, or you could use the Infernal Rider since it increases basic attack damage as well as fusion damage. But the downside to this Echo is that it does have to hit the enemy. Other than Encore, you could consider using Chixia or Shorekeeper, but your damage goes down pretty dramatically. So now let's go ahead and do a simple rotation using Brant and Change Li as teammates. So you want to start out by using Lupa's Liberation, doing 5 basic attacks, and then activating her enhanced skill into her Echo. Then you want to enter into Brant, cast his Liberation, Ho basic attack, and then you want to do 2 basic attacks into his enhanced skill. Cast his Echo, and then you want to intro into Change Li. So where you want a basic attack, plunge, do 2 basic attacks, press the spacebar, activate your skill, press the spacebar again, then activate your skill, do a basic attack into a heavy attack, cast your Liberation into a heavy attack. Cast your Echo, and then outro back to Lupa, to where she should cast her enhanced intro and then just repeat this rotation. So Lupa is a very strong and fun character to play, but there are a few recommendations that I would make. If you're going for sequences, I would get her signature weapon first, and then stop at sequence 2 because the rest are not really worth it. If you have Brant or Change Li, you could consider pulling for her, and if you have both, she is very strong and does complete that team. But if you don't have either of them, it's best to wait until more fusion characters become available. But even if you do have access to her full team, it is a bit more advanced than most other teams. But as stated before, she does complete that team, and it is very fun to play, and it does feel like it's meta competitive. So if you like her and you have the proper teammates, you might want to consider picking her up. So with that, you should know everything that you need to know before you row. So, are you rolling for Lupa? Or are you waiting for some of those future characters? But other than that, I'll talk with you guys later.